Well, thank you. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Mayor's Golf Classic Funds Committee. The time is now 10:07 a.m. on June the 4th, 2025. I'd like to call this Mayor's Golf Classic Funds Committee meeting to order. Land acknowledgement. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. A shared understanding of how the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk through together into a better future. Approval of the agenda. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda that was circulated by Legislative Services? And that was from our meeting on the, sorry, I had it here, on April 2nd. Moved by Rob, seconded by Manuel. Thank you. And any questions or comments on the agenda from April 2nd? If not, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Can I interrupt? Sorry. This is today's agenda. The next one will be the minutes from April 2nd.
I'm so sorry. I'm a little off because of my computer glitches. Thank you. The approval of today's agenda. This is the approval of today's agenda, June the 4th. Moved by Rob, seconded by Manuel, and all in favor? If there's no questions? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so declarations of any conflict of interest or general nature thereof. Any declarations?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And now we're going to discuss the receipt of the minutes from the Mayor's Golf Classic Funds Committee meeting of April the 2nd. So may I please have a motion to receive the meeting minutes of April 2nd? Manuel, thank you. Moved by Manuel, seconded by Rob, and all in favor if there's no questions. All in favor? That carries. We have no declarations. So matters for consideration. So you each should have received the applications to the three organizations that wish to receive funds. We're going to start with the Lighthouse Learning and Development Center. So each matter will be dealt separately. Request a motion to put the item on the floor for discussion, and then I'm going to ask for confirmation of the committee's direction before calling the vote. So the application from the Lighthouse Learning and Development Center regarding their funding for programs. And do we have Laura there? I see Laura just popped in.
Hi.
Laura, welcome to the Mayor's Golf Classic Funds Committee.
Hi,
and we are going to ask you to just do a brief overview of your request.
Sure.
I'm going to put a mover and seconder first. I'm going to have to put the item on the floor. Manuel, did you have your hand up for a reason?
No. Sorry.
Okay. So first I'm going to have a mover and a seconder to put the item on the floor. Who would like to move that we consider this application? Manuel, seconded by Rob. Thank you. So welcome again, Laura. My name is Angela, and this is the small committee today. So do you want to just do a synopsis of your request?
Sure. I can't remember the exact request that we had put in now because I think it was a few months ago. We just missed the cutoff the last time. But if you guys aren't familiar with it, the Lighthouse Learning and Development Center is a private space for children with autism. We recently moved into the adult sector, adult programming, where we've partnered with businesses in the Aurora area, such as New Roads Automotive, Dollar Tree, Tim Hortons, and Flow Water, where we're creating an adult program for adults with neurodiversities to get them into the workforce. So they're going in, they're building their resume, they're doing placements, as well as an adult day learning program, similar to a day program for adults with neurodiversities. But this program we replicated from the Ernie Els Foundation in Jupiter, Florida, because nothing like it exists in Canada or Ontario and Canada, because it's continuous learning. And for people who are diagnosed with autism, the most important thing is to keep them learning, and not just to be stagnant. Day trips and stuff are fun, but we want to keep them learning so that they can be members of society, go into the workforce. And what we're learning from our placements is that these individuals are thriving. They're fast. They're not, messing around with their social time. But we need the money in order to do it because, as you can imagine, we've been applying for a lot of grants since we became a registered charity back in 2023. The Lighthouse actually is celebrating its 10th anniversary in September. So we have a lot of events going on. We became a licensed charity back in 2023 in hopes of raising more money and awareness for adults and for children with autism, because as you can imagine, it's a very expensive intervention to run. And it's one of those things that you have to put the money in now to then benefit from it later on. So if you kind of put that investment in when they're younger and grow, then you're going to see more progress and more success as they get older in life. So that's where we're looking for, is to really build up this adult program, because there aren't a lot of funds specifically for adults. Some of our children are lucky enough to get the OAP Ontario Autism Program funding. Adults, there's nothing like that in Ontario. So rather than putting that cost onto our parents and our families of adults with autism, we were hoping to get some of that money through other venues to then allow them to go to these programs for very minimal cost.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. And yes,
Thank
that
you.
was what the request was for.
Okay, perfect.
From April. So any questions about the program? And just so you're aware, Laura, what will happen is we will either choose to grant the request, deny their funding request, or defer it if there are more information that we need.
Okay.
So does the committee have any questions or comments?
Just for clarification, Laura, the money is helping for the maintenance of the programs?
It would be to allow the adults to go to the programs for free. So the only cost that really is incurred from the Lighthouse are staffing costs to go because whatever. So right now we have a staff member and 2 individuals at New Roads Automotive. It doesn't cost us anything to have the partnership with New Roads. However, it does cost for staff to attend. So rather than putting the staffing cost onto the family to then send a staff as a job coach, that would be then the funds would be used to pay the staff to do that, versus right now we're doing it as a pilot. So the 2 people that are there are free, so that we could prove to everyone that this is a great program and that this actually works, and that to get them into the workforce. But moving forward, we would have to pay for that as part of a staffing cost. So that's where the money would go, is to subsidize any cost that the family would have to incur in order to pay for a staff to go.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Laura, well, this is based out in Aurora. What's the base of I'm gonna say customers, but the base of the people that you serve? What's the percentage of the population who takes advantage of your program from Aurora? Are they?
So those are difficult statistics to obtain, because as we know is that people with neurodiversities don't often identify if they're neurodiverse, especially adults. We're finding that as children, we've got more statistics to show that, 1 in 10 children are now being diagnosed with autism. More boys typically than girls get diagnosed. Those stats tend to drop off as soon as they hit adulthood, because more people are getting diagnosed in adulthood, or they've just been masking their entire lives to kind of fit in with society. We would imagine that out of 1 out of 100 probably are impacted in some way, shape, or form by neurodiversity. What we're learning is that there is a huge neurodiverse community within Aurora. We're having a vendor fair in August, and we're having a lot of people who are interested as vendors who identify as neurodiverse. So those stats are really, really difficult to obtain, only because they don't really exist. We've gone to Census Canada, we've gone to different areas, Newmarket, Aurora, the various townships around us, and no one really has those stats to support what adults in their community are actually diagnosed with neurodiversity.
So Laura, I think the question though is, if I can jump in, Manuel.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have a sense of how many people you serve through the school in Aurora? So for example,
Oh.
of your client base and your addresses, like, do you have a sense of how many people might?
So we have 40 children in our school right now between ABA, which is younger kids, all the way up to high school. We have 40 kids. About 30 of them come from the Aurora Newmarket area. Our adults, we run a social program at night on Monday nights. And we have 20 young adults in that program. And there are about, I believe, 12 or 13 of them from the Aurora area. So it's a huge, it's actually quite a big amount when you're looking at it from that impact, that we're actually servicing the Aurora area.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. That
And-
was exactly
and
my
Yeah.
And just to add, I think the trickle down that what we're seeing from the community perspective is incredible. So we're seeing people come into New Roads Automotive, and we're learning about, everyone has some kind of a connection to a neurodiverse background in some way, shape, or form. And we're seeing that trickle down effect happen in businesses. We're seeing people more inclusive. Our kids go to all of the businesses along Yonge Street. We're just located on Edward. We've got a great relationship with the fire hall, and our guys go to the parks and they go to Metro, and it's becoming more inclusive. The more that we have our kids out there, the better the community is bettering as a result, because we're becoming more inclusive just by nature of being there and being present, which is incredible to see.
Okay, are there any other questions for Laura? I appreciate, Laura, you presenting. I also appreciate the last few pages that just talk about some stories. So that
Okay.
always helps with information that Serena sent as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so the request then is, if there's no other further comments, then I'll call for a vote. Again, that's to grant the funding request, deny, or defer. So all in favor to grant the request? Okay, thank you, and that is carried.
And just to be,
sorry,
sorry,
I
Madam
was-
Chair, for $5,000 is the request, and that's been granted.
$5,000 was the request. I'm just double checking that.
Yeah, I have it open now.
Yep.
Thank you.
So Laura, what will happen is the team from the Aurora staff will reach out to you and follow up with you around that request.
Amazing.
And
Thank you so
Amen.
much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Amazing.
Bye, Laura.
Oh,
I just have one question.
sorry, Robert.
Oh, Robert.
How did the casino night go on the
It
30th?
was so good. You guys need to all come, because it's our 10th year in September. We decided to scrap the gala because galas aren't very much fun and banquets. So instead we're doing Vegas Casino Night Part 2, and it's going to be even better. You need to come. It's going to be incredible.
Great.
Sounds fun.
Keep
Thank
us-
you.
Amazing.
Send us info.
Will do.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Take
Have a
care,
good one.
Laura.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so we're now on to number 2. And is this Mark? Hi, Mark. I'm Angela, and this is our little small but mighty committee. Today we got Manuel and Robert here. So we do have a funding request. Okay, so I better go to my notes. It makes it much better. So now we have an application from CAYR Community Connections regarding funding for the Taste of Life annual campaign. May I have a mover or a seconder to put the item on the floor? There's only the three of us, Robert and thank you, Manuel. So that's been put on the floor. And the request is, so what happens, Mark? Sorry, I'm just going to speak to you for a second. We've put the item on the floor. Your application has been received. The committee then will provide direction on either granting the funding request, denying the funding request, or deferring consideration of the funding request to a future meeting, meaning if we had some other additional questions that you had to answer. And what I'm going to ask you to do, Mark, is maybe just do a couple minute overview of what you're requesting. And we do have the application in front of us as well. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. So basically, Care Community Connections is a community-based organization, nonprofit organization. We are our office is situated in Newmarket, but we cover all of York Region. We offer various supports. We work with individuals affected with HIV or AIDS. We offer harm reduction support services, Hep C support services, including testing drives. throughout the year in various locations. We have a Rainbow Space program that works with the 2S LGBTQ population. We have a youth program there. We also have a intergenerational program as well. And the reason I've applied for this grant through you guys is basically the need for support is always there, and we try our best to offer practical support to those living in precarious situations. We work with a lot of vulnerable and marginalized folks. So practical supports could include anything from gift cards to we also do various shopping for other things such as tents, clothing items. We do have a food pantry on site. We used to work a lot with the food banks in York Region, which we still do, but we try our best to take a lot of pressure off of them as best we can because we know that they are struggling as well. And we just try to offer as much support as we can to whomever might walk through the door. We also have an outreach program or an outreach team. Most of our staff consists of outreach folks that go throughout the community, either using their own vehicles or a staff vehicle, and we take food and other supplies, and we just try to visit people where they're at. So that's kind of where my request comes from, to just help us out with that.
Okay. So this is an annual campaign, so it's a fundraising campaign to Taste for Life, and
Yes.
you're asking for the funds to go towards that would pay for all the services. And it's a
Correct,
$5,000
yes.
request, if I didn't say that already. Okay, all right. So I know what Manuel's question is going to be, so we do open it up for questions right now, so I'll let Manuel ask the question.
That's okay. Angela, I have the answer, but yes, how many Aurorans we've been? I know you've mentioned it, Mark, that the office isn't in Aurora, but you do service all of York. But how
Yes.
many Aurorans do you have registered in your program?
How many Aurorans? Off the top of my head, that would be hard to say. We haven't really divided it up by municipality. Our HIV program sees almost over 200 registered clients. A lot of those are from Aurora. Our other clients that we work with, and we would typically go away from clients and say service users, regarding whether they're living with or affected by Hep C, whether they use our harm reduction program or are part of our Rainbow Space program. We really don't have a case management intake form, so we don't necessarily ask people where they live or where they're at. There's a lot of confidentiality involved. A lot of people who say are part of our harm reduction support program, some of them might be unhoused, and so we don't want to make them feel uncomfortable by asking where they live or where they're at. They might also be in a group home. When it comes to our Rainbow Space program, we don't want to, again, make folks feel uncomfortable, specifically some youth, they might be living at home and they don't want their parents to know that they're part of this program. So as I said, it's only the HIV support program that kind of tracks that information, because they usually come to us through public health. The rest of our folks, we have numbers. We don't necessarily keep track, as I said, of where they're specifically from. I can say that we do visit Aurora as much as we visit every other municipality. We find the central municipalities, Birchman Hill, Aurora, and Newmarket we see most of our service users coming from those areas.
Thank you. Hope that answers it, Manuel. I appreciate that answer. I'm just curious because I should be aware of your program here at the Salvation Army, and maybe I'll reach out to you separate, Mark. Is it primarily volunteer run? Do you have paid staff or?
We do have paid staff. It started out as a volunteered run program. We've been around since 1993.
Hmm.
It started out as a grassroots volunteer organization that was mostly focused on HIV and AIDS support. It has since grown with funding from, government funding has allowed us to grow, to offer these different programs. And then since then, we've changed our name because we're not necessarily an HIV/AIDS only committee anymore. So now we're Care Community Connections. We feel it more represents all the programs that we have on board. And as I said, we do only have one office, but we cover all of York Region. So most of our staff isn't really there on a daily basis. We're out in the community. And so yeah, that's kind of why I felt it was great to reach out to all the townships in York Region because we do serve all of York Region.
Great. Okay, thank you, Mark.
So yes, we do have volunteers that come in and help us. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So if there's not any further questions, I don't want to make sure there's nothing left. Is there anything that you don't feel you shared that you need to share, Mark? All good?
No, I
Okay.
think I
So
covered it all. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. So if there isn't any questions or comments, I now take it to a vote to either grant the funding request, deny the funding request, or defer for another meeting. So in regards to the application by Care York Region Community Connections, will we grant the request? Anybody, all in favor? I can't, Manuel, any opposed? No, one opposed. Okay, did we want to defer for, was there any specific question, Manuel, that you have now, or do you want to defer?
No, I'm fine. I have the answers. I just don't feel that it doesn't demonstrate the benefit to the residents of Aurora, but it does benefit the whole resident of York. But so I defer. But I decline. But you guys can go ahead and it's
Okay.
carried anyway.
So can we carry with 2, Mike?
Yep, 2-1, carried.
Okay, so we will carry that motion for $5,000. Thank you, Mark, for speaking, and Mike will be in touch with you shortly.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you having me. Thanks.
Alrighty,
Bye.
bye. Thank you. So now,
Angela,
yes,
have we got the third person in yet or no?
Shelley, I haven't seen her, or Sean, is Sean in yet? Yeah.
Just now.
Sean is
just now.
Shelley. Did you want to wait to bring her in, Robert?
Yeah, just
Okay,
call me
can
Rob.
we,
I know my mother used to call me Robert when she was mad.
sorry, Rob.
Yeah, I was kind of torn with this as well. With Manuel, I share his sentiments as well. So, and I think we've obviously got the mandate that it's serving the residents of Aurora. There are, don't get me wrong, they're all great causes, but I think maybe as a group we should really land on sort of clear guidelines as to, maybe instead of 5, we prorate it, maybe give them 2 out of 5, or, based on how many people from Aurora they actually serve.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Manuel. My gut also.
Every time I'm in my mind, I'm thinking exactly what Manuel said.
Yeah, I think there maybe could be an addition to the application. That's what I was thinking from both of these past ones, is maybe maybe on the application it needs to at least state what is your percentage or how many clients are you aware of that live in Aurora. That might help us, and it might help them rethink how they put their application in as well. Because I appreciate what Mark had to say about confidentiality and they get referrals, but I keep a database, and so I know, I could tell you how many clients I have from certain communities. So it could be just how they have run their business as such. They're their charity. That's a little different than some other charities, but maybe that should be a question we add is, What is your percentage of clients?
I'm just going by the funding criteria and guidelines, right? That's all I'm
Yep.
going through here. And
Yep.
it specifically says it has to be beneficial to the residents of Aurora. So that's what I'm going by. So
Yeah,
we
and I
don't-
think,
although it does say that we have $1 million, but we don't have $1 million in funds.
Yeah.
So I want
I
to
think, and I look at these two past organizations as a benefit. There's definitely going to be individuals in Aurora. I know that just, and again, I'm coming from a different perspective because I'm seeing also the need. So, yeah, but maybe if they're able to show a little bit stronger with some kind of number, that would help us. Okay, so I appreciate that.
All right.
Okay, let's bring her in. Shelley, poor Shelley. She's been waiting a little while. Shelley, you can come off mute if you wish and put your camera on if you're there. I see Sean, but I know it's you. There you are.
Hello.
Hi,
Well-
Shelley. Thank you. So we have a small little committee today. I'm just going to go through the process with you. And we do have your application from Aurora Cares Community Action Team. So first I need to get a mover and a seconder to put the item on the floor. So moved by Manuel, seconded by Rob. Shelley, what's going to happen is we're going to ask you to speak briefly about the application and the purpose. And we're either going to be able to, and this is an application for the Aurora Cares Community Action Team regarding funding ongoing initiatives. We're going to either grant the funding request, deny the funding request, or defer it to the next meeting. And so Shelley, if you can just take a couple minutes to go over what it is the committee is asking.
Well, I guess we all know, and many of us have been there, where back to school could be a major financial burden for families and struggling to afford basic supplies and necessities for their kids going into school. So the committee decided to take a look at what the needs were in terms of providing backpacks and supplies for kids. We contacted the York Region District School Board as well as the Catholic School Board because obviously they have access to the schools and could get us realistic numbers by contacting each one. We have heard back from the York Region District School Board. Their timeline's a little bit different. They want all the backpacks provided by the end of June so they could distribute them and not have to worry about it in the frenzy of the fall. The Catholic School Board hasn't given us numbers yet. They're looking at towards the end of summer for fall. So with the numbers, I know that Doug had sent some numbers into you, but we got final numbers on Sunday because apparently they work on weekends anyway. So we had, the previous number was 160, but the final number is 171 backpacks. We sourced a place called, I think it's, oh, I've forgotten what it's called, SVP, I believe, in Newmarket, which had substantially lower cost at about $24.99 a backpack. And we're hoping to have some wiggle room there to even get lower with the bulk purchase. So the backpacks alone at 171 backpacks come out to $4,828.82. That's just for the York Region School Board. We're expecting similar numbers from the Catholic School Board, but that's a projection until they actually give us the numbers. The York Region School Board also asked for a number of supplies. We're not sure what we're going to be able to do in supplies because that cost is a few more $1,000s and doesn't include the backpacks for the Catholic School Board. So we've also received some funding from the Rotary Club has given us $2,500 towards the initiative. And we're working on a few other partnerships to be able to make the whole thing happen.
And I did mention, Shelley, that I'm also on the committee, so they're aware of that. And you'll see in the letter from Doug, it does suggest securing other donations. I was able to get through for the Salvation Army at our Christmas program, there were quite a few school supply type programs that came in with the toys. So I've separated those out for the purpose of supporting our children in Aurora, our client group as well, which then we could put in together with the supplies that the committee is able to secure. And I, as I said earlier in my preamble, prior to the meeting, definitely focus those items on the Aurora children and alert our families to be able to go back to their school in Aurora to speak about their need.
That's
Yeah. So,
any questions?
any questions for Shelley at this time?
I do have, go ahead, Rob.
I just, I had a question. You've obviously got the numbers for the district school board, and you're waiting for the Catholic board. Are you going to, if it gets requested, is all that funding going to the public board, or are you just going to split it up and give it some to the Catholic board when you get their numbers?
We're pooling all the money together. We're going to go purchase as many backpacks as we possibly can, hopefully this week, and we'll then put them aside so that we've got as many set up. We're hoping that the money that if we get funding from you and with the money from Rotary, that would be enough to cover enough backpacks for both boards, and then the supplies will be secondary. But again, we don't know exactly what kind of bulk deal they're going to give us, so we're just going to take it as far as we possibly can and focus on more fundraising if we don't have enough at that point.
Okay. Thank you.
And Rob, there is some community businesses that would be willing to donate if we approach them. So for example, last year Desjardins did come forward with some items. So yes, we would have to supplement.
Yeah, because with the Optimist Club, we partnered with Staples for quite a number of years for exactly like the back to school program. I know they discontinued it. I'm not quite sure why, but they might be approachable again. I don't know. So
Thank you, Rob. I think Manuel had a question.
Yep.
Comment?
Oh, well, just more of a statement. I'm reading your letter to the committee here. Says this is for youth in need in Aurora. So this is all to be used in Aurora.
All of it.
All of it.
The schools that the Catholic School Board, that the York Region School Board sent us was a breakdown of every single schools in Aurora.
Yes, thank you.
And certainly, Robert, as to what you spoke of, I can check with Staples again, but when we just looked at the prices that Staples was currently offering versus the prices the other was currently offering, they were, I think, 60-70% cheaper than Staples. But again, Staples may be willing to offer some kind of partnership or
well, they might be able to discount them for your program or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for those questions. Thank you, Shelley. So what we're going to do now is if there is no many further comments or questions, I'm going to call for the vote. So all in favor, we'll start with granting the funding request. All in favor? There's none opposed, so therefore that carries. Thank you, Shelley. And Mike will be following up with yourself or Doug. Doug, I believe, is out for gone for another week or so.
Yes.
But I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Shelley.
Thank you so much. And you guys are not as scary as I was expecting. Anyway, have a great day. Thank you,
Shelley. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Now that was an easy case.
That's an easy
no
case,
question
Manuel.
asked. The letter was specific, very specific for kids in need in Aurora. So that's a done.
It is fabulous. And the chart that they gave on the application is nothing like the chart that Doug has built, which is quite amazing to see it, this Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so we have no informational items. Does anybody have any new business of any sort? And I think maybe if we can put it on the table, Mike, number one, if we're able to adopt the application that kind of states clearly numbers, percentages of people served within our community. If that is something fair, we can ask. And I'm going to put back on the table again a discussion at some point, or I bring this up almost every meeting, Mike, that if it could be brought back to council about, is there going to be a point where we can raise the amount or the number of times that people can apply, et cetera, given whatever numbers we have now in the coffers. Those would be my two items I would like to put on the table.
Sorry, what was that, Andy? You want more money to be put
Well,
on the
I mean, I
table?
think there are some organizations that would benefit maybe from a bigger ask if we can afford it, or how often. Right now, you can apply once for 2 years, but is there any
Does that
wait.
fall within our group, though?
Sorry?
Does that decision fall within our group?
I'm not certain what you mean by that.
The decision to change the rules that, you know, that
Oh, no, it has to go to
that-
council. It
it
has to go
goes
to
to council,
council.
right? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes, sorry, yeah. I'm just putting that on the table as maybe potential discussion. If the money is there, is there any way we could? And then I think what you brought up, Manuel, too, which is a very fair, if somebody asks for $5,000, but we discover their numbers are lower in Aurora, then is there, what the wiggle room is there? Can we still give a portion?
That was
rather
Rob,
than-
that was Rob's suggestion.
Oh, sorry, Rob suggestions. Thank you, Rob.
But it's, yeah, because our current guidelines are, you can't request more than $5,000 in one calendar year.
Which I think
And
is
also-
fair. We don't have that much money, so I think
Well,
it's fair. I mean, 5,000 a year is fair. I thought initially we had millions in there, but Mike, you said there was 165,000. That's not much. That's not much. For me, I'd rather spend that 165 to focus on Aurora rather than, you know, macro. I want micro. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Again, hopefully if we have the numbers that people are actually serving, that will give us more weight in our decisions. Yeah.
So if I might jump in just for a second, I can make that change in the application form now. We'll do that going forward. The 5,000, it's or more, it's an interesting thing. You know, I think so we had our most activity last year, right? And presuming if you counted that those people come back for funding this year, they'd be at their 2 years. And so maybe next year we don't have as many organizations coming forward for funding. We do get the odd new one, like the one on the agenda today. But you know, maybe at the end of this year is a good time to look at expanding the amount of money that that organizations can receive from this fund.
Okay, all right. Very fair.
Well, and it was also interesting that when I first started, you know, the amounts were 1,000, 1,500, 2,500. Somebody came in with 5,000, and it's been miraculously 5,000 for every application after that. So
Can I also just say that the discretion's on the committee. If you want to go down to $1,000, somebody asks for 5, you go down to 1. That completely up to you. That would be fine to do that.
But Mike, I know this is a volunteer position, right? But if we do decide to do that, it'll be awkward if we're in a meeting and the board, the committee would be going back and forth saying, no, 1,000, 2,000. So my suggestion, I know it's a volunteer job and we're not paid for this, but maybe a day before the actual meeting, we get together as a committee and say, what are our thoughts? Instead of us, you know, like when we go in, we're prepared, or is that a no-no?
The problem is we run into open meeting and transparency things. So we are a committee of council, so we're subject to the council policy, and for this committee to discuss behind closed doors applications and then discuss them openly it's not the most transparent thing, so I wouldn't suggest that that's what we do. And I'll be the first one to admit you're in a tough position with some of these things. See, people are asking you for money and to not, or to give them less than they want, or not at all, probably doesn't feel so great, especially if you think it's a worthy cause. It just doesn't benefit Aurorans. It's just unfortunately, I think it's just part of the role that we ask the committee members to fulfill.
I think the only time, Mike, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, the only time we've ever gone in camera, so we've gone sort of behind closed doors during a
Yes.
meeting, is if it's an individual that we're discussing.
Correct.
We have had, I think in my history, maybe 2 individuals that were presented. And so
Sounds
that
right.
is when we would go in secret as such, in
Yes.
camera. That's
I
the
should
only
have mentioned that.
time.
You're right. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm a rookie, so I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm learning about these things here.
And I appreciate your questions. They're very fair. Okay, so we have no other new business after what we've just discussed. May I have a motion to adjourn? Who'd like to motion adjournment? Whose hand? Robert is first and second in. Yay, all in favor? Thank you, Mike. Thank you, team. And until the next time.
Until we see again.